What's up, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of From the Lions Cove podcast. I'm your host, Marcelo. Joining me today, this is a very special episode. We actually met at a cemetery, which is crazy. We met at a cemetery, worked there for about 3 months, and it was unreal. My man, Luke Fitzgerald.
What's up, brother? Pleasure to be here.
Man, thank you for coming on the pod. But listen, Luke Fitzgerald, 6'8" forward from Cleveland, Ohio. University of the Cumberlands in Kentucky, ended his college career with almost 1,500 points and almost 800 rebounds across 118 games. Ranked 7th all-time in his school for scoring and 2nd all-time in field goal percentage. Let's not forget, too, senior year, NAIA All-American first team, and was player of the year. Played for the ABA, played in Australia, Germany, France, professional basketball, which is absolutely unreal. And now he's been doing LukeLifeCharms, where he vlogs his traveling experiences and goes all across the world. I mean, his channel is unreal. I mean, he's been to some insane countries. And yeah, Luke, thank you for coming on, brother.
Man, my pleasure.
This is an honor.
Man, really, man, for me too, man. You're a cool dude, brother. I was like, man, we got to do this, man. I appreciate you for making this, making it important. You know, you could be like, oh, whatever, but you just were like, yo, Luke. I'm like, yeah, let's do this, bro. Let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, we clicked right off the bat.
Right.
I mean, as soon as we met, and obviously, just the more we got to know each other, like the stories, everything was insane. And I was like, man, you know what? I should tell him I have a podcast.
Right? Yeah.
So,
and that opened up so many other doors, because then it's like, oh, you can do this with a podcast, this with a podcast.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the first question: what inspired you to start LukeLifeCharms? Was there a specific moment where you realized you wanted to share your journey and mindset with the world?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. Well, I was a pro athlete, so I was a pro athlete for it's probably 8 years of being a pro athlete. And one thing is, when you're traveling and bouncing around from country to country, what ends up happening is you get all these friends, and then you go to another team, and now you got to start over again. So every time you're starting over again. And then one day, I was living in Perpignan, south of France, about an hour from Barcelona, where I was going every weekend and having a great time, you know, going there Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and meeting amazing groups of people. So over there, I know you know about the hostels.
Yeah.
So I always say the hostels, and if your audience doesn't know, it's like you're in a room like 8 people or 10 people, and everyone's just in there. It's like, it's weird to explain to Americans, you know?
Yeah.
And then I was there, and I was like, man, I have all these fun weekends, and I was having to keep on repeat the same thing. You start to hear the same questions asked to me, like, where should we go? How do you travel so long? And I'm just like, you know what? I had a really good weekend, and then one day I was just like, you know what? I need to have something, so when these people leave, that they don't have to leave my energy, you know, that they can follow along. I can teach, I can show them something. And at that time I was on Snapchat, and I was kind of making videos, but it was going away in 24 hours. And then one day I'm at this nightclub, it's one of my favorite ones, Jamboree. If you ever go, it's right off La Rambla in Plaza Real. And I was there, and I was just dancing, and I was in the VIP with my friends, and I come down to the dance floor, and I have like this champagne, and I'd always take it down because we didn't want it. It just they were just nice to us. And I would just pass it out to people. And this guy like grabs my wrist, and I'm like, what on earth? And he opens my hand, and he hands me something. I'm just like, what is this? And I look at my hand, and it was like, it looked like €5. I'm like, why does he give me €5? I'm like, bro, I don't need your money. He's like, no, take it, bro. You look like you're having such a fun time up there, man. And I just love that energy you have. And I was like, man, I appreciate it. And I had some champagne I gave him, and I was like, I got this Coca-Cola or anything you want. We have everything. Just go talk to our guy, Marcelo, at the door, or Marco, and he'll let you in. And when he did that to me, I was like, that's so strange. You know, I thought about it. And at the end of the night's coming, we're about to leave. So I find this guy again. I'm like, yo, bro, we left the table. You can just go up there, whatever you want. He's like, oh, thanks, man. I'm like, you sure you don't want your money? And he's like, no, man. He's like, I'm a professional hockey player in Canada, and you know, I'm not around a lot of people who have great energy. And he's like, I love your energy and everything, so you just keep it. And I was like, cool, man. So I go home, don't think about it. Wake up the next day, and over in Europe, you have to wake up the next day, and there's just like the check. You know, make sure you got your phone, make sure you got your wallet. And I'm like, cool, I got my phone, I got my wallet, my keys. And then I look, and I have like €50. I'm like, 50? I'm like, that's so strange. I'm like, oh, that dude, right? So then I open it up, and it was another 50. And then I opened up, it was another 50. And I'm like, $150. I'm like, 150 euros. I'm like, this dude gave me 150 euros. And then I thought about what did I have to do? Like, he didn't know I was a pro athlete. He didn't know I was American. He didn't know anything, just my energy. And I was like, man, he gave me 150 euros just to be myself. And I was like, man, what if I start to just film myself and explain how I am the way I am so then people can watch me and get money to be myself? So that day, right when that happened, I just left that morning. I rode my bike. I ride my bike to the hostel and then ride to my car and drive back to France for practice. And as I'm riding back, I stop in this park, and there's the Arc de Triomphe. It's famous in Barcelona, not the one that's in France. And when I stopped there, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to share it with the world. So when I stopped, put my camera on the side, and I filmed my first YouTube video. And my very first YouTube video is that. Me standing outside. Yeah, that's how it started, just like that.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah.
That is a crazy
Yeah,
story.
bro. Yeah.
So obviously, you travel to so many different places within your videos. I'm sure you've picked up a ton of new languages, right?
Yeah, a bunch. Yeah, just about every. Yeah.
So like, what was like your favorite language to learn, and what was the hardest one to learn?
Hardest one, I would definitely say the hardest one that I speak a little bit of would probably be like a Polish, like the Polish Ukrainian language is hard.
Yeah.
Because it's just we don't have those letters,
Yeah.
A C with 2 dots is different than a C with a slash, like my whole name is Luke and people know me as Lukas, but for example, in Poland, the L is pronounced with a W, so I'm Łukasz. So everyone's like, Łukasz, and I'm like, what? After I got really popular in Poland, people would be like, Łukasz, and I was like, what? That's me, So that was challenging. Of course, the most challenging language is Hungarian, because that's the only place I've been that I don't remember any words from there. That's
wow.
And I looked it up, and it actually is like Hungarian is similar to Finnish, and Finnish is the most complicated language.
Wow.
Because there's no words that are the same. Like, I don't speak it. I speak Spanish and French like fluently, but if I hear Italian, I understand everything, but I can't speak it. Portuguese, I understand mostly everything, but I don't speak it.
Wow.
But if you go to like Finnish or something, I don't understand a single word. Yeah.
Wow. That is so crazy. But going back to your positivity, growth, and perspective, that's what your videos are all about. When you sit there and watch, you're just walking around, just talking about life itself. Where does that energy come from, and how has it shaped the way you approach life?
Man, that's some good questions, bro. Man, you are a beast with the questions, man. Off of what I know now, I think a lot of times the way we are is from what we didn't get growing up. I think for me, I didn't really have the freedom growing up. Like, I was the kind of kid that don't go on the sidewalk. That's how I was raised. Stay on the driveway. And we have like a circular driveway. All the kids ride down, and then you ride up the sidewalk, and you just keep going in circles. Me, I couldn't. So I'd ride as fast as I can, slam my brakes, and sometimes I would like touch my toe on the sidewalk and then ride back up. And I would just be going like this. And so it was like I never had the opportunity to just go out there. And I always wondered, like, I just want to go walk on the sidewalk, And I think when I grew up, I guess I was growing up, but once I had a little bit more freedom, it was like, oh, I got freedom. When you're not allowed on the sidewalk for 15 years, when you finally are allowed to go out, you just go crazy. And then you see there's this whole world out here. And I think for me, it was just like this curiosity. Like, if there's one word, it's just being curious. So now it's like, well, what does the next sidewalk look like at this point for me? And as I was a pro athlete that never left, like when we had off games, if we had 2 days off, my teammates would always know Luke's gone. Like, if we had a day off, I'm going to go somewhere where I can drive 5 or 6 hours away. But if we had 3 days off, everyone knew he's at the airport after practice, no matter how tired. And for me, it was more so that curiosity, like, what's out there,
Yeah, that's so true. Even going to Italy, going to Europe, my first time this year, and then going back for a second time, which like in the span of a month, which is crazy. Just having that energy, just like that fire, just to go see what else is out there, and also like to experience like new things in life.
Yeah,
I feel like that's so exciting because we don't know what the future holds.
Yeah.
So the fact that we plan these trips, or we create like a certain podcast, like you don't know where that can bring you in life, and I feel like that's just so awesome, especially if you keep that positive mindset going into it. Like you just know everything is going to work out.
Yes.
Like, even though you may have hard days and bad times, but like as long as you just keep going and staying positive and staying curious, listen, a lot of crazy things will happen. it's crazy where this podcast has brought me today. I mean,
right. I was thinking the same thing, man.
I mean, like I didn't know you 3 months ago, and now I know you. Now we're sitting here doing a podcast
Right?
episode.
That's crazy. And we've been to some of the similar places already. And you were telling me about kind of your eye-opening experience going to Europe. And you're like, I gotta go back.
Yeah.
You know, because like, what were your thoughts when you went there?
It was just unreal. It was more so like, I've heard about it from like my grandparents.
Yeah.
Obviously they were born there, and then they immigrated from there to here.
Mm-hmm.
One of my grandparents, my nonna, she came 10 days on a boat. Like they didn't know how to swim, anything. So I've heard some crazy stories about like just how Italy was, what life was like there, and the fact that I got to go and experience it was just a blessing. But it was also incredible because I got to see the lifestyle that my grandparents lived. And it's like, okay, well, what if like they never moved to the U.S.?
Right.
It's like, who knows if I would have, had a completely different lifestyle.
100%.
Because it's just so relaxed and it's so calm. Whereas here, I mean, people are mostly working 9 to 5s.
Yeah.
They're just kind of sticking to the same routine.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. It's totally different life.
Yeah. Did you feel like something like awakened inside of you?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was absolutely unreal. Just like hearing people speak different languages I've never heard before.
Right.
Obviously, going to public school, and even in my neighborhood, we have people that speak many different languages. And then obviously my grandparents.
Yeah.
But it was just unreal. Just meeting new people, like hearing what they had to say, and then also seeing what their life was like.
Yeah.
I feel like the reason why I started this podcast was to hear people's stories, hear their backgrounds.
Really.
And it was cool because I got to experience it internationally. I feel like here I hear everyone's stories here.
Yeah.
Just hearing a different perspective over there was crazy.
That's amazing. And then it's so great what you've done. I think of just like you say, like just to where this podcast can go, and also like where it can go. Like you can now just travel and meet an interesting person and being like, yo, I got a podcast. And maybe you don't have the full setup and everything, but you have like just your voice, and you just have a little interview with some Italian baker who spoke English, because people, and this is like where it can go if you just document what you do. And I think more importantly is just it'll make a cool story even if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean it's insane.
Yeah,
Seriously.
brother, man. That's awesome, man.
But obviously all roads lead to home. So growing up in Cleveland, what role did basketball play in your early life, and how did that environment shape your work ethic and drive as an athlete?
Wow, great question. Also, man, it definitely, it was, for me, it was like an escape, like, because I mean, I didn't play sports. I'm not one of the kids that grew up and played sports. Like a secret was people will never guess being like 6'8", like 295. I'm losing the weight. Don't worry. But it was like I was like, up until 14, I was violin. I was like one of the best violinists in South Euclid.
Really?
Yes, in Brush, I went all through that program, and I was like going to be one of the best. I had offers to go to like the youth orchestra, the Cleveland Youth Orchestra, which is huge. And then when I transferred schools, it was like, oh, there's no orchestra here. So that's when I shifted to basketball. And then when I said shift to it, I realized like, wait, if I play basketball, I can get out the house. Like I gotta go play basketball. Now it was like this escape. And now it's a place where no one could, like, if I have a ball and I'm in the gym, no one can just yell at me if I'm by myself. And it was just like, I can just be here by myself. It was like quiet. Then I learned how to play, and it became this escape that I saw it. And then one day I was playing, and this guy came to me. He's like, where are you going to go to school at? I'm like, I'm probably not going to college. I remember telling him that. He's like, bro, but you can play. I was like, yeah, but I don't want to do college. Like, I don't want to do school. He's like, bro, you got to use basketball as a tool. And it was when he said that shifted in my mind of like, I never thought of using it as a tool. Like, I thought it was just like this escape for me to do. And like, that's what I would do for fun. But then you're like, wait, this is a tool as well? Like, this podcast is just for fun and, just to share things. But now all you see is like, what if like the podcast is a tool where now all these people are watching? Now you go to different places and you do interviews with all these people, and you create something from it. So I use it as like a tool. And then it was just like, well, if I'm going to use this thing, like, let me just do it to the best of my ability, and let me just train and get good, and let me find somebody to look at. And for me at that time was LeBron, because we grew up in the same era. We played against him in school. So seeing him in real life and being like, you know what, let me just try to do what he does. And then it was just like that constant, like, driving to do this, and then seeing that it opened up me going to school and going to college, university, and getting a scholarship. And it was like instead of seeing like, am I good enough? Like, what if I just see like, let's see how far I can go? And that was kind of the push, Yeah.
Wow. So really, like you had like your mind made up that you didn't want to play at first?
Yeah, no. I mean, for me, it was just like, just escape, just have fun playing, and that's really it. It wasn't like to be pro, like it was like look cool, but then that's it. But if a guy didn't tell me like it's a tool, and then you just think about what's a tool, what can you do with the tool? Like it depends how you use it. You know, you can use it to just play in the streets and be one of the best. There are legends on the street. You know, I grew up playing at the Euclid Creek. You know, the Metro Park.
Yeah.
Like that's where I grew up at, and there's legends there. You know, still this day, Butter, George, Brock, these guys are probably still there playing. But it was like, wait a minute, you got to look beyond this. You know, use this as a tool to get out of here. And then it was like, wait a minute, to get out of here. And it's like, yeah, like go. And I'm someone who didn't grow up on the sidewalk. So it's like, wait a minute, this can get me, I can go somewhere. And then once I started playing, I would go to this Lost Nation. I played in this league. And I think sometimes you got to meet someone who's doing it sometimes to open your eyes that it's actually a real thing. And I met a guy out there, shout out to Will Brand. I think he was the coach at Mayfield Heights for a while.
Yeah. He was my coach.
Was he really?
Yeah, for a senior year.
No way.
Yeah.
Will Brand.
Yeah.
Wow. But he was like my real life idol.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting him at Lost Nation. I'm like, bro, someone told me you play overseas. And at that time he was I believe he might have been in Germany. And I'm like, yo, how's it like? How's the pay? He's like, man, it'll take care of things if you go out there. And he became that next thing I could chase. I'm like, yo, if Will's overseas, like, bro, I think I can do it. Because I'm playing against him. And anytime I played against him, I'm always guarding him. Like, so I'm like, I'm going against Will. And I watched how he played. I watched like how he walked, like how he handled himself. And that became like, I can do that. I can do that. And I'd score on him and I'd be like, oh, wow, maybe I can play. And this time I think I'm maybe my second or third year in university. So I hadn't become a star yet. But I remember being like, I got to get overseas. That means I got to shine where I am so I can get there. And that became like my real life person. He was the only one that I knew here. I had met a lot of the Cavs players, but I didn't call them up and I couldn't talk to them. Yeah. And Will was the first one that became that person. Like I can write him and say, hey, what do you think about this? You know, at the time he was in Luxembourg and he's like, yeah, bro, I think Australia would be great. And I call him, he'd give me ideas and I'm just like, okay, all right. And then that sparked it. So now it's like, I can get out of here. I'm like, what if I keep using this thing as a tool?
Yeah.
And then now it's like, okay, how does it transform now? Now how do I use that experience as a tool, maybe to get someone's attention, to make people listen, you know? So looking at it as a tool really shifted everything.
Wow, that is insane.
That's crazy. Will was your coach?
Yeah. So he was my coach for senior year of high school, and he was the JV coach as well. Obviously, just a great guy.
Man, yes.
He seriously helped me out through some tough times.
Yeah.
Just a great guy all around.
Yeah.
But that is insane.
Yeah.
Playing at Lost Nation.
Playing at Lost Nation. That's because someone pointed him out because I wanted to play overseas and like that's a guy who plays overseas. Because you hear about it, but if you don't meet someone who actually does it, a lot of people lie about it. And then I'll go and check, and I'm like, you played like half a season, you're gone. And they said Will had been playing overseas, I think, like 6 years. And I'm like, man, let me just look at him. I watched him play. I remember getting there early to watch him play. And then he'd show up every now and then at Euclid Creek, so I'd play with him there. And then after a while, I don't know if I was a pro yet. I might have been a pro already when I saw him the next time. And I would see him, and we'd play against each other. And now I'm going at him. You know, now I'm a grown now, you know. And then we played on the same team together. One of my biggest memories was we were playing together, and we finally were playing on the same team at the YMCA. And he drives to the hole, and he passed me the ball, and I wasn't ready, and it went out my hand. I was like, man, this is how pros play. Next time we come down there, I think it was maybe a couple days later, he passed me the same pass. I dunked the ball down the middle, and I gave him a high five. And it was like, in my brain, it was like a transfer of energy. It was like, yo, I can do this, you know? And that was like the first hero that actually showed me. Like, I literally wrote him probably like maybe a few months ago, just thanking him just because he just came to my mind. I was like, that was one of the first real life heroes that had done what I wanted to do, that I met and that I could actually have a conversation with.
Wow, that is
Will Brand, man, great dude.
Yeah, and it's crazy too that you say that because you know you kind of saw him as your hero.
Yeah,
like, it's crazy when I first met you. Like, you were doing the podcast.
Yeah,
you were doing the YouTube. You were doing everything.
Yeah.
That's always something that I always dreamed of as a kid. Like, just like doing YouTube. Like, I would make like small videos with like Legos and makeup. I would do crazy things like that. So like, hearing that you were doing that stuff,
Yeah.
and on top of that, you know, you love hoops.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, like, this is crazy that like
Yeah.
someone is actually doing this right now.
Yeah.
So like to me, it was
Yeah.
huge to me, because I remember I'd come into work every day. I'd always ask you some like questions.
Yeah.
Like, hey, like, what do you think about this? And you'd always leave me with some advice.
Yeah.
Like the Opus clip, obviously.
Yeah.
What else is there?
Buy me a coffee, just
yeah,
having
buy
like
me
it's little
coffee.
things that I'm like, if someone would have told me this, because actually another shout out is another hero who I had was a real life one. I don't know if he went to this school. He might have Justin Tisdale.
Okay.
I don't know if they call him JT. I think he was in the city council of South Euclid. He's like my height, and he was someone else who really played a role. But it was always like, this is a podcaster. It's really about the questions you ask, not about the answers. You know, everyone's out there looking for answers, but you're not asking the right question. Yeah. And that's what separates like a pro from someone who's just looking for answers. It's like, why do you back cut in basketball? What are you supposed to look for when you do it? And some people don't know. So when you understand what the question is, like, what am I doing this for? And you can get clear on that. And then you find someone else who can help you get even more clear. You're like, oh, like if I don't link anywhere for people to pay, how am I going to make money? You know, and now that goes in your mind of like, how am I going to do it? It's like, what if you just have something linked? There's people who are watching you right now who are like, yo, I want to support this person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It's insane. So obviously, going back to your childhood, senior year of high school, you got hurt. Eventually got a scholarship to the University of the Cumberlands, redshirted, and eventually became NAIA Player of the Year. I mean, insane. So what fueled that transformation both on and off the court?
Man, another great question, man. Marcelo, the great questions, bro. You know, I would say that, you know, I think everyone comes to some kind of breaking point where if you give up, everyone would understand. And if you go forward, you really need to dig down deep, you know. And for me, this is right at the peak of me loving basketball. So before I broke my leg my senior year in October, but before then, that summer, I had spent the summer, my dad put me in camps. So he's like, I'm just starting to play. He sees that I like it. He's like, let's put him in camps. There's a chance that he could be good, you know? So I remember I went to a camp I was supposed to go to 5-star camp. This is the camp everyone says to go to.
Right.
But I wasn't ready. I'm still new to playing. I wasn't playing for like a year. So my dad said, let's find a camp where you can go to. And I know because he tells me all the time. He's like, we needed to find a camp where it could be just big men. Because as a 16-year-old, I was much bigger than any other 16-year-old. So going to these little camps, he's like, it's not enough. So we found a big man camp at University of Cumberlands in Kentucky. I remember we went there, and it was to prepare me to go to 5-star. And it was a challenging camp. I remember being in the town of Williamsburg, and I was like, man, I can never live in this town. That was the first thing. We laugh about it to this day. I was like, I can never go here to this camp.
Yeah.
To this camp. And it was a challenging camp. I did well. And it's a crazy story because, you know, when the camp finished, you know, I won a couple of awards. I didn't win the most outstanding in the camp. I found out later it was because apparently I was late. My coach told me I was late to a session, but I wasn't. But in his rules, if you show up with 5 minutes to go, you're late.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't know that. So he's like, that's why he did. He told me this like way after I graduated. And basically I went through the camp and everything's fine. And I was never thinking about going there. And I was one of the last people to move out of the dorm because we stayed there for the week. And as I'm getting in the car, my dad's pulling off. I remember thinking like, oh, my shoes. And this time I had the T-Max shoes. So these were like most important ones. Like, I got to go there. I left them in the drawer. And I remember my dad turned around. We went back in, and I ran in there to make sure it wasn't closed. And there was one assistant coach sitting there. And I was like, I left my shoes in the room. Can I still go there? He's like, yeah, hurry up. And I run in there and get my shoes out the drawer. And when I turn around, that coach is standing at the door. And he said, hey, Luke, oh, by the way, he's like, here's my card. If you ever need anything, you call us.
No way.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. And I took him. I gave it to my dad. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, he gave it to me, but don't worry, we're not going to use it.
Yeah.
And after that, I went to 5-star camp. And in 5-star camp, I did really well, you know. For me, I was there when we signed up. Crazy thing that happened is we were in line registering for 5-star camp. And there was this tall dude in front of us with these two kids. And they were registering. We were just behind them. And then we got up to the line. And the guy was just smiling. We're like, what happened? He's like, 99% of the people in here don't even know that was just Michael Jordan. Yes. Yeah.
What?
5-star camp. Yeah. So I went there. We registered for the camp, and apparently Michael Jordan's sons were there. You know, but no one knew. You know, no one knew Marcus and Jeffrey back then, what they looked like, or at least I didn't. And I remember we were there, but they all had Jordan. Like when we walked out, we saw all these security outside, and they all had Jordan outfits. And I remember being in this camp, I'm like, I gotta do well. And apparently they have a no dunking rule, and there's a lot of things in this camp, but it's like a professional. So like, if you do well here, you can shine. And my dad watched me in the warm ups, and because they choose you to see what team you're gonna be on. And I was doing really well, and my dad's like, just shoot the jumper. And I was like, Dad, okay. So I shoot it, and I start making it, and then they're like, okay, you're going on this team, because they can see I can shoot as well.
Yeah.
And long story short, like I guess I did pretty well. Was in the All-Star game, which is you can dunk. I was the first one to dunk, which I'm excited about. But more importantly was I won an award, which I didn't think I could win, or I didn't even think about, was the rebounding award. Yeah. And it was, they give you this basketball. And I remember like, oh my God, this rebound award. I'm like, I guess I can play. You know, you need those moments to show you like, yo, I can do this. You just need one moment. You need one viral video, one little clip, whatever it is in your field.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm like, let's do this. It's senior year. I'm going to do well. These people know who I am now. So we have people calling us every single week from Cleveland State to teams all over the country were calling me each week and talking to my dad. And then I played in this like slam dunk contest. The next day we ran like this little mini marathon. And the next day I played ball I practiced with the team. Then I went to the YMCA and played again. This is the third day in a row I've been playing. And then I'm about to leave because my body hurts. And I see some friends saying, Luke, can you play one more game? We need one more person. And I was like, okay, all right, let's do this. And they give me the ball to warm up, and I go to do a 360 dunk. And I jump off my left leg, and I hear a pop like that. And I come down, and my knees like out, my tibia is out the side of my leg. And I'm just like, you know, all this had been built up all summer of me like, I can do this, you know? And when that happened, it was just like this, like, is basketball over? You know, I remember like them taking me to the ambulance. I'm in the emergency room, and I see the doctors looking through the window at me. And I see my mom outside, and she just shakes her head like this. And I was like, oh my gosh. And that was like my down moment of everything for that summer built up. And I was just like, you know, I'm like, I got to make a choice right now. Either I'm going to come back from this, or we're just going to, like, it's going to be just whatever it is. And yeah, I just like, I'm going to come back from this. And making that choice is like, I'm going to rehab this leg. I'm going to do what I can do. You know, they told me I couldn't play that season, but I came back. I wasn't able to bend my leg at all. But we got blown out by like 95 points, my high school team, in like Brooklyn, I think it was. And I was like, I'm coming back the next game. And this had been probably 6 weeks. I rehab. I had a little quad, but I could limp. Yeah. So I played point guard and just dribbled down slowly. I would still score and still play, still nervous. And to rewind real quick was right when I broke my leg, my dad, all the colleges stopped calling me. So they all stopped when they found I was hurt. They said, just go to JUCO and we'll talk to him later.
Wow.
And you don't want to go, back then you couldn't just go to D1 because once you start in NCAA, the clock ticks. So you can't redshirting all these things, like, or you can have a year off. It's counting. You got 4 years from the time you start. And my dad called that school, the University of Cumberlands, and Coach Butcher, he just was like, if you get Luke down here, he's like, I'll sign him to a full scholarship right now. So like that next day is when we went down there, signed a full scholarship. I'm in crutches, like down there. I just had the surgery, and that's how I got into University of Cumberlands. And then, so I guess the point doesn't really matter that I did come back to play my senior year, but that was the moment of like, I'm going to do this. And so that determination was just like, yeah, Dad, I want to do this. Then the coach offered me a full scholarship, and that's how I got into Cumberlands.
That's insane.
Yeah, and he redshirted me my first year, so I didn't play. I just got to watch, and yeah, it was a blessing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then, what was that transformation like from like your redshirt year to then being the NAIA Player of the Year? Because that is insane. I mean, look, you went from being at like on top of the world, getting all these calls, getting all these offers, and then that happening to you. I mean, that I feel that in my heart. Like that is heartbreaking. Yeah. But I mean, that transition, for you to bounce back, that is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Being recognized as the NAIA player, like in the whole entire country.
Yeah. It was like, it was a transformation. I think you only need one person to believe in you. Like, I truly believe that. You need one person that you believe in that believes in you. And you can, like, borrow their belief in you. And my coach gave me a chance. And in practice, my redshirt year, I'd start to do really well sometimes. And then my freshman year playing, I didn't get a lot of playing time either. But I was like, I'm better than these guys. And then I'm like, I'm going to keep working. I'm going to prove it. Second year came back, I was better than these guys. My sophomore year, I felt like I was. And then my junior year, I'm starting to play a little bit more, but I'm a 7.6 rebound guy at this point in time. And then, oh my gosh, when she sees this, she's gonna laugh. I told her story on other things though, so it's fine. But we're about to play a team called Lindsey Wilson College, okay? And there's a big guy on there, Sam Walton. I'll never forget his name because his same name was Walmart. And the guy Walmart. And I was just like, well, you know, I'm not playing that much, but I'm like, if I get a chance to play this game, I'm gonna do the best I can. I'm always coming off the bench, but I never scored more than 12 points or 15 points. And this is conference. So in a conference game, I know he's gonna play me because our big man's going to make some fouls. So I know I'm going to get in there, but I've never scored more than 10 points in a conference game. And about the week before, I had broke up with my girlfriend. And I was just like, man, you know, I was already irritated. And this is an away game, 2.5 hours. And I'm warming up, but I'm already irritated. And some people on my team know that what had happened, that we had broke up, but no one said anything. I found out later. And then as I'm warming up, I'm like, I'm just going to do the best I can, you know, and just take my anger out here. And then right when the game's about to start, I see her walk into the game. Like we had broke up, but she walked into the game with her friend because her friend was there to see another player. But she came with her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's here. So I was like, you know what? I'm like, I'm gonna do the best I can, so that she sees like, you know, man, you know, it's delusion is great sometimes, you know. And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna do the best I can. And I got in the game, and I just was like, let's just go. I remember I had a steal, and then I had a rebound, and they kept fouling me like this game. I remember I just was like, I'm going to go at people. I'm going to just go straight through them. I don't care. I got all this anger, and they kept fouling me. And I remember I shot that game 14 for 15 from the free throw line. And then I remember my coach, when I missed the free throw, he called out to me. I remember looking back, I'm like, what's up, coach? And I went to the free throw, and I missed that free throw. And after the game, the coach was just like, you know, it's my bad he missed that free throw. But I remember him feeling like apologetic, and I did well. And I had that game, I ended up having 30 points and 15 rebounds. And I think when you have moments where you see what you can do, you need to hold on to that. Because now I'm like, there's no reason I can't get 30 points and 15 rebounds every game. Like that becomes like the new standard, whether that's money that you make or whatever that is, it shows you what you can do. And you can't forget that. So that became like, I think I'm like every game I'm going for 30 and 15. 30 and 15 is every single game. And that week I became the player of the week. And then that showed me what I could do even more. I'm like, I got recognized by other people. And I just rode that momentum to my junior year, that whole year. And I finished, I think, third team All-American and runner-up for player of the year.
That is absolutely unreal.
Yeah.
So, like, it's funny because when I was doing my research and everything, like, your stats came up on ESPN.
Oh, yeah,
Like, which is crazy. But, I mean, that is just a fantastic story. And too, like, it's so funny, too, because, like, for example, I remember in high school, like, when you have, like, you know, certain, like, people that walk into the game, like, for example, like, family and friends, like, seeing, like, oh, hey, like, my dad and my mom are here. Like, I really have to go to this game.
Yeah.
Or it's like, hey, like, my best friend's here from, like, out of town. Or, hey, like, my best friend from school.
Yep.
So, like, you just have, like, certain people that, like, can walk into an arena. And your whole mindset just changes.
Yep.
I mean, it is absolutely crazy. But obviously, that is a fantastic story.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's really also, you can, if it doesn't happen, because as things went on, sometimes I didn't have that motivation, but I just became like delusional enough to think. I took like the thing from Michael Jordan to the max. He's like, or I can't remember which one it was. It might have been Michael Jordan to the max. He was talking about there's someone up there who has never seen me before and will never see me again. And I have this mentality. So I'm like, this is for you, because I know what I can do, but I need to bring it out. We need sometimes to give ourselves something to bring it out. And if it can't be real, you can just make it up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and like it's so awesome too, because like, you know, for example, I always use things to like motivate me.
Yeah.
Like for example, I'll see a quote online. It's like, hey, like, you know, you should do this, do that, and you know, right in that moment, it just says, hey, I need to go make a podcast. I need to go think of an idea to get better. Like it's little moments like that could really just change the entire game for you.
You said it right, man. It's just that it's like acting on that moment because there's something there, and it's like use that. Like, don't let it just pass away. Like, every moment is passing, but when you see that, go. Like, it's a moment, because if it doesn't, someone else is going to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously. So then
man.
You also played in the NBA Summer League. Me and you had a crazy conversation about this one day. So what was that experience like, and did you have a welcome to the NBA moment that stuck with you?
Oh man, it was like well, it was the what was it league? It was the we were in the same arena as the NBA Summer League, but in the league that I was in, I think it was called the Eurobasket Summer League, I believe. They've changed the name of some more. I don't know what it is now. And I played for the Belgium team. But we had a lot of guys who came from the NBA Summer League that played with us because some of them didn't make it through the Summer League. Or they thought they could play. They were like a reserve and they just never did. So they played in our league. But I got to play with guys who had already played for the, one guy, I remember one guy, he's probably one of the best players I'd ever seen. His name was like Kevin Sowell. And he had played like for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and you're playing with these guys. And then I saw a lot of guys from Kentucky who I'm from that school, so I mean from that state where we played at. So I recognized I'm like, oh, there's that guy. Oh, there's Blake Griffin, And it was just like this whole other level. And I also got to see like the political side because we'd be in practice, and I'm like, yo, I'm better than most of these guys. Like the dude 7'3", we became friends later on. I think his name was Jared. I think Jared Carter. If you're watching this, what's up, bro? He's 7'2", and he played at Kentucky, great player. But I remember I was like, man, I'm like going at this dude. Like, why am I not playing? How did you play before me? But then I found out that a lot of them, oh, this guy went to this place, this person went to this place. And I was the only person there from NAIA. Nobody else from NAIA was ever even there. It was a lot of D1, D2, and maybe like a player of the year for D3. And I got to see like a political side as well. And I remember someone was explaining it to me. They're like, dude, you came from NAIA. They gotta make these schools look good. And I was like, really? I'm like, I had no idea about that. I'm like, but I was like the best player there, and I'm going at these people, And luckily, I had some drills that I did that summer to stretch my game out to be a great 3-point shooter because that's all I was doing there. And I was making all these threes, and I'm like, this is not even where I play at. I play inside, going at people, But they just, And I remember being there, and I must have played. We played in 2 games, I think it was, or maybe 3 games. And I remember just playing like 7 or 8 minutes. That's it. And I get every rebound. I'm like, man, I score like 6 points, 3 rebounds in like 5 minutes, and he take me out. Yeah. And I'm like, and I'll be sitting there on the bench not understanding. And I go back to my hotel and I was like crying because I'm like, I don't know why. Like, I don't get it. Like, and I'm like, is this what it's like? But then I think it's all about the questions you ask. And I was like, well, how do I take advantage of this opportunity? Yeah. And it became of like, well, what if I just reach out to the people who are already here? Because a lot of those guys had played overseas and then they came back over here trying to get in the summer league or try to get seen by more scouts. And I remember when I was sitting there, I just connected with 1 or 2 people that gave me names, and I got those agent names, and those became people that I talked with all summer that would eventually get me a deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's absolutely crazy. So this talent, was it more so like from people coming from like the pros, or was it like D1, D2? I guess what was like
the level there?
Yeah, like the level of play.
It was almost like everyone there had played pro already. There was only a few of us who had just freshly come out. The rest had been like Timberwolves. Like the one dude, I had 2 guys on my team that came from the NBA, went overseas, and now they came back. Like the one guy, I remember he had such a horrible attitude, man. Kevin, I love you, bro, but I was like, what on earth? He was the best player I ever seen up until this point. Like, to put it in perspective, someone did the jump ball. He caught the ball, crossed over someone, and did a windmill and dunked the ball. First play of the game. And then he got mad. And he would just get mad when he got fouled. He's like, I'm not staying here for this. Yeah. And he just walked off the court.
What?
And I'm just like, did my chance to go in? So the dude just walked off the court? And they just kept me sitting there. I was like, okay, I guess that's cool. And then I didn't have any money, really. My dad gave me a little bit of money, but that's all that I had. And I was watching these other guys who had played overseas, so they had money. So they would be like, oh, we didn't play, but it's fine. We're going to go out to eat. We're going to go to the casinos. And I'm like, I ain't got no money, man. I can't even do that. So it was like a really experience of just like, it's cool. I get to see what it's like. But now I realize it's more about connections, because some of the guys who I thought were good didn't get anything out of it. I would text them and they would be like, no, we ain't got a job yet. So I got to see a whole other side of the business side. You realize in the NBA, you're like, maybe I got a chance. But if you look at the mock draft, 4 years from now, it's already written.
Yeah.
10 years from now, it's already got the mock draft. Those are the people who are watching. Anyone else, it's a smart idea. Someone told me to go overseas first. So at least you get money, experience, and you're not sitting around waiting for that call up, which is that was a dream that was sold. But I played with guys who had done this for a long time, and they weren't happy with that. So I kind of used that time to just talk to the people, just use that environment to start to learn.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then in one of your videos, you have a video called "We Did It," and it was basically when you won the championship overseas.
Oh,
I think it was like 2019
yeah,
video.
2019, yeah.
So take us back to that moment, and then also talk about your experience from going to this summer league.
Oh man,
and that championship.
Ooh, that's a huge timeline. I guess if I had to share the underlying thing was basically when you go overseas, there's like this, everywhere has a dream. Like there's a dream if you're in corporate America, there's a dream if you're in school, there's a dream of your, like there's everything. But overseas, the dream is you go overseas, you find a team that you want to play on, you stay on that team until you win a championship. And then when you're on that team as a championship, they'll sign you because the top two teams move up a league, bottom two teams move down. So you sign with that team and now you're set for life. And I've seen that happen with some of my friends. They played there, they moved up with a team, now they're in a higher league, and now they 3x their salary.
Yeah.
At least 3x because they have the money. So that moment of us, we did it, that was me playing for a really great team, Angers. Yeah. Allez Angers. Merci pour tout. Merci pour tout. J'aime tous les gens là-bas. It was a really great experience because it was my first time being in a really pro experience. You know, this is a team that their budget was 5x anybody that I ever played for.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of money. We had a lot of talent. You know, for example, our coach, Laurent Bouffard, he was a great guy. He had won like 6 EuroLeague championships or something like that in Russia with the women's team.
Wow.
So he's a big guy, you know, like a big name guy. We'd be on the team bus and he would be on the phone with Tony Parker. Like, or Rudy Gobert. Like, wow. I remember he got on FaceTime with Rudy Gobert and we're all there. He's like, hey, Rudy, he's like, I gotta go. I gotta do this thing. We're just like who is this dude, you know? And that taught me like this whole like professionalism, you know? Yeah. And winning that was just like this, such a like amazing feeling because I had been in Australia for 2 years, realized I needed to go to, well, from the summer league, I played in the States just while I was waiting to go overseas because you want to do something while you're waiting. That matters, what you do while you're waiting for what you want, you know? And that led me to Australia. I got picked up by a team where I played for 2 years. And then I got offered from there to go to Germany, where I went to Germany to play, get my feet wet. It took like an 80% cut in salary to go there, but it's all about getting into Europe. That was always the goal. And then from there, I signed with the team for 5 years in the south of France, which I love. They just ran out of money and the team closed. Or else I would have stayed there for the next probably 20 years. They still want me to play for them to this day, you know, because they reopened 4 years later, you know. And after that, that's when I got signed to go to the team of Angers. And with that team, that's when we moved up. That's when where I became the best player on the team, the most points, the most rebounds. I played almost every minute, never missed a practice. Like it was like, this is what the dream was. And as soon as we win the championship and we know we're moving up to the top, to the next league, I was walking into the arena and because there was a playoff. So you got the 4 regions and then you just have a playoff to see who's the top dog. But all of us are moving up, so we're set. So everyone's in chill mode. We're just enjoying the flights and all this kind of stuff. We've already done the mission. And it was really cool because the game that sealed it was that's the first game my parents saw me play as a professional.
Wow.
You know, so what you were saying about when you see someone in the stands, you're like, wow. You know, we played against a team called Tours, and that team had a guy who was making 3 times the money that I was making. And I'm like, bro, I'm way better than that dude.
Yeah.
So, and because that will happen in teams. Like you'll play it, like there's a great example. A team in our league played against Barcelona. And Barcelona had their best man. His name was Justin Dolman, I think his name was. Great guy. He did like triathlons on his off season. But he like, he's crazy dude. Crazy freak athlete. But for example, they would play a team. The team's budget was $400,000 for the season, for the whole team, for every player. Where Justin Dolman's salary was, I think, $600,000 a month. So you have a huge discrepancy sometimes like this.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that. You'll be lined up against a guy who you're much better than, but the team has more money that he plays for, so they pay more. So you always keep that in mind when you go places. You'll see people go to places like, why'd you go to them? It's like they offer more money, you know?
Yeah.
So when we played against this team, like I remember getting a steal at the end of the game and got an and one. And then I remember hitting a 3 in the corner to seal the game and running down the court, pointing at my parents. And I'm like, that's the best feeling in the world. Like, it's the first game they've seen me play, and I've been pro for like 13 years. So it was like a really cool experience. And I'm like, this is like the top of the world. We won the championship. When we won the championship, my sister was there too. So it was like really, like, it was phenomenal. And then I'm walking to the arena the next day, and one of the security people at the front was like, "Man, thank you so much." I was like, "No problem." He's like, "Sorry, you're leaving." And I was like, "What do you mean, sorry, I'm leaving? Like, we just won. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the season's not over. We won." And the other guy said, "I'm sorry." So I'm walking down the hallway. I'm like, "What's going on here?" And I like go on, like I sit down in the locker room, like, "Guys, what's going on?" And like, "You didn't see the paper?" I was like, "No." And I open up Facebook and I look at there, and I text one of my friends, like, "You send me the paper for today?" Because she always read it. And it sent to me, and it was like, "Angers is so grateful to move up, and they bid a thank you to their top 3 players." It was me, it was 3 other people, where they just let us go because they used the money for moving up. They had so much money, they paid people in the higher league to move down.
Wow.
So they doubled people's salary from the top to move down. And that was my first realization of like, wow, I spent 10 years like to get this dream that they told me. And now it's like, it's not what they said,
Wow.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this into my own hands. And that's when I started to take YouTube seriously. That's when I was like, you know what? I got to work on my audience, my people, because that's all I can control. So it's not like I forgot about basketball, but I was like, I need a shift. And if that didn't happen, I don't know if I would have taken it so seriously. So I was like, everything happens for a reason. And that's when I dove right into content. And I ended up signing a deal after that for 2 years to go to another team. But I remember taking content so serious after that.
Wow. I mean, like, it's crazy to me because, when we're kids, right? Like, we look at the NBA, like, wow, like these guys are, having like the best time of their lives, but like in reality, like, we forget that it's a business.
It is 100% a business, and people don't understand it is a real business. Like NBA and all that is even different but the difference between overseas and NBA is like NBA, if they're cut, like it's sad, but you made $20 million.
Yeah.
You can just live off of off the interest alone. You're making $1 million a year. So you're okay. When you're overseas and you're cut, if you're not making that much, you actually have to think like, I can't afford to just have a full year off. I'm going to be touching savings. I'm going to do all this. So you got to think more strategically, which is why I think it's more about when you're over there. It's not so much about the way you overcome the politics of it is to talk to the people. I got overseas to that team was because when Australia on our last year, my last year with my team, I felt like they weren't going to resign me. They had a bunch of new coaches. 2 of the guys were leaving, and I'm like, they didn't sign me right away. So I'm like, maybe I should look elsewhere. And it was my last night or something like that. It was the last game, and everyone went to the same club, CQ in Melbourne, Australia. And I went there and I saw this guy, really good friend. I literally just wrote him and told him thank you, like probably like 3 weeks ago, because he didn't even know that he's responsible for everything. Is I met him in the club and I was like, yo, what's up, E? And he told me, he said, I asked him, like, what is he doing next? He's like, he's going to Argentina. I'm like, how you got a deal so fast? He's like, oh, my agent. So he told me about that. And when he told me that, I'm like, do you mind if I reach out to him? He's like, yeah. And he gave me the agent number. And it's that agent that I called and talked with that got me a deal to go to Germany.
Wow.
It was him who got me in. If not, I don't know what happened in Australia. I would have maybe stayed there, because one of the things when you talk with people, you get a lot of insight. You save a lot of time. A lot of guys go overseas 1 year. That's why they don't have a job. Because once you leave there, now you're trying to work with time zones and they don't know you. They'll take someone else who's in shape and over there. They have to fly you out there and do all this. And I really realized the power was in talking to the people that are actually doing the thing, not listening to someone else's dream. Because the best advice I heard for anyone who wanted to go overseas, the greatest advice, this is the reason I played for 12 years, and I could have played for probably 10 more if I didn't get so curious of wanting to see the world. And it was that you never leave a country without a contract, ever. You never leave. One guy told me that, and he had been playing overseas for like 15 years. John McClark, man, great dude. He's the only other American I met in 8 years living in Europe that spoke the language of the country. Wow. And he said that, and that saved me so many times because I wouldn't leave without a contract. Meaning, if the season's over and I don't have a contract, I'm not leaving. So my team was like, "Oh, we need to think about it to resign." I'm like, "Okay, don't worry, I'll be here." And like, "Where you? I'll be here. Take a hotel. I'll be here." And then 3 days later, "Okay, come on inside."
Wow.
Yeah.
And Luke, I mean, to sum that whole summary up, I always live by, right person, right timing.
Oh,
like
yes.
It's I mean for example, right? If you would have never talked to that guy,
yeah,
who even knows what would have happened? I mean,
yeah.
It's crazy. There's so many times in life where you come across these people, you are, kind of in like a grocery store,
Yeah.
or you're in class, or you're just walking in the halls, or you're working at a cemetery.
Yep. Yeah.
And you can literally meet anyone that could change your life,
Change your life,
or
yeah.
change your trajectory of life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah. And they can be anywhere. That's why you always have to have this like curiosity and wanting to learn, because you let moments pass you where it's like that's a learning moment. Like one of the mistakes I think I made so much was always trying to teach people something.
Yeah.
And it's like you can teach it, but language is caught, not taught. So if they're not paying attention to it, which is why now what you have is a great skill of questions, because questions get them to think about it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how you can like hijack someone's mind, is just getting them the question or getting them to realize it. But I remember if I wasn't so curious asking questions, then I would never have been given an answer that I could use if I was looking for answers. But it was asking like E, who was standing in CQ, like, hey E, what are you doing after this? Like starting those conversations, and so many of those things like led me to something else, or so many inter stories that I have in between things of like, you know, like I remember one preseason game in France, this team's after about a year, they knew who I was, so everyone's trying to stop me, and we were in a scrimmage, which I didn't want to play in. I don't take scrimmages or preseasons. I don't care about it, because it's all that matters is the season. I don't want to get hurt in the preseason in a game, and then I can't play in the season. I don't care about it. And I told my coach, but he wanted me just to play anyways, and I'm killing these dudes. Like, not killing, but I'm like doing really well. You know, I'm doing the best I can in the game, and I come across the screen. This guy like swings at the elbow and hits me like right in the nose. And I remember thinking like I broke my nose. I thought I'd knocked my teeth out, and I thought I was blind. Like that's how hard I got hit. I got hit with the really end of the elbow. And I remember thinking when I got hit, I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I had met a friend who was a doctor, and she was a doctor, and she had family who was a doctor. And when you're overseas, you're like alone. You can feel like alone. You know, I had a guy when I was playing semi-pro here in the States. He told me his first year in Portugal, he cried. That was the first thing he did the first day. I'm like, that's crazy. You know, who's gonna cry the first day? First time I got in Australia, in my house, close the door, you cry.
Wow.
Because you're not in the place you know. You open the window, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know where you are. You don't know any of this, you know. After a while, I learned to keep a bunch of peanut butter and take it with me, because that's what I know. I can eat that. When you go to these other countries, you don't know what this food is.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, like, you know, when I got hit in my face, I remember I had a friend, and she came and picked me up because I couldn't even drive. But I remember thinking that was my second year with that team. And I'm like, if I didn't have that person at that moment, I wouldn't know what to do. I'm like, I can't see? Am I actually blind? Like, how do I drive home? Like, it seems like they don't care, because a lot of times you're really a tool. As long as you play well, everything's great. You know, and I took the gladiator quote seriously, which makes it so hard when teams did let me go. It gave me great connections to people, because I was so, like, I have so many connections all over the world because of what I learned from Gladiator, of just like, you win the crowd, you win your freedom. You know, when you're playing overseas, if you win the crowd, if every single person loves me here, you got to think twice before you let me go. And if you let me go, they're going to trust me when I say, I don't know why they let me go. And people don't want their reputation destroyed. So everyone treated me very different. So I was winning the crowd. I was like, what does that mean? That means like I stay after the games. That means I sign everything when I have the energy to. I give away my shoes after the games. Like little stuff like that. You have this impact everywhere you go, because you never know if you need to cross that bridge again. And when I got into not problems, where I had challenges there of like, I'm changing teams, but I'm actually going to travel this summer, where I put my stuff. Everyone's like, hey, we keep stuff here. You can keep stuff here. You know, I just came back from there like a few months ago, because I had stuff in like an apartment that I needed to get from people who just were kind to me. So it was just like, you never know. Everyone's there for a reason. And if you just blow them off as like, I'm this person or that person, or I'm not going to ask them a question, you miss out on all the beauty and the knowledge you can be learning.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
bro.
that's absolutely unreal, Luke. That
Yeah,
is
bro.
absolutely unreal. So when you were in Europe, I mean, it's amazing how you went over there pretty much just alone.
Yeah.
And then you left, even to Australia,
Mhm.
knowing tons of people, thousands of people, and also experiencing culture.
Mhm.
So what's the biggest cultural or personal lesson you've learned from immersing yourself in so many different countries and communities, and for people who dream of traveling like you have? What advice would you give them?
You're wrong about a lot of things you think about the place. Until you have boots on the ground, you don't really know. You can think you know, but you don't. Like, you don't know, like, you might not know a place, but like, I remember just the quick examples. I didn't know about Bulgaria, but I wanted to go there. Like, it had a cool name, Sofia, Bulgaria. I was like, I want to go to Bulgaria. I don't know anybody. It's very far away from everywhere that I've been, but I'm like, let's just figure it out. I remember being so nervous flying, and I get in the plane, and I barely fit. And there's this girl that looks back at me, and she's like, "Ooh." I'm like, "I know." I'm like, "It's okay. It's only a 3-hour flight." And then she offers me her seat. She was sitting in like a first class area, and she offered me her seat. So we swapped. And I was like, "Wow, that's nice." And then when we landed, she's still been talking. She's like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure. I have to figure out when we get there." And when we got out the plane, I remember she was still talking to me, and she was with another friend, and I showed her I'm going to this hospital. She said, "Oh, we can stop you there. We live close." I was like, "Oh, okay." And then they dropped me off at my hospital. I dropped stuff, and they're like, "We're gonna go eat at a 24-hour underground mall if you want to come." I was like, "Oh, okay." You know, and I got there. I'm going there. I got to see the city. They explained things to me. But if you would have asked me before what I thought, it would be terrifying. But it's only terrifying because you don't know. And the only way to know is to talk to someone who's actually been there, and also understand, even if they tell you they had a bad experience, it's only their experience. Some people have a bad experience everywhere they go. You know, you got to find someone who's simple and who enjoys their life and ask them what they thought about the place. But most of the time, the fear is really just you. Your brain is like, we don't know what that is. And travel exposes that. You know, I don't know what that is. I don't know anyone. I don't speak the language. And I tell people that are in my community, I'm like, all those reasons people say they don't go there are the exact reasons I go.
Yeah. And like, Luke, for example, like literally 2 months ago, like I flew internationally for the first time. And
so I proud of you, by the way.
Dude, thank you, bro. I was so nervous. Like I was like, well, I don't know what to expect. I've never been on a plane ride. I mean, I just did it 2 weeks prior.
Yeah.
Like I've never been on a plane by myself. Like let alone flying from like Ohio to like Kentucky or like Pennsylvania. Like I've never done that before. So like just doing that, you know, like, you don't know what to expect. But I mean, for example, I talked to people, like I got to hear, you know, their stories, or even, hey, like, yeah, like this line's so long.
Yeah.
Or just making like quick conversation. I mean, there's so many people that, you know, you can just build a quick like you know, relationship or like a quick like connection with them, and eventually you just start talking and you just bond over these little things, and eventually they turn it into something big. I mean, it's absolutely unreal, and those connections can go a long way.
Because you never know. You never know where it leads, and I've learned that from traveling. You never know where everything you want is on the other side of hello. And so you never know. I've had people that I just said hi to and was kind to, and who, like 6 years later, they're traveling to a place that I live in, and they reach out to me, and then they come there, they're staying with me, and then I remember, like, hey, where you guys live at now? Oh, you live here? Oh, I might be there this summer. Yeah, come on, we have a house. Come and stay there. I'm like, okay, cool. Where are you at in Sweden? What place? All right, awesome. They're like, oh, but we're not going to be there, but we'll leave the key. You can stay there as long as you like. For you know what, I'm staying like 3 weeks in Sweden, you know what I mean, barbecuing with their neighbors, and they're not even home, but it just became from a hello and just being kind to somebody.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, listen, kindness always goes a long way, and also to staying positive and staying true to yourself.
100%.
I mean, for example, like throughout your journey, like you've never changed. Like you've always like remained the same, like every time. And I feel like, you know, in today, for example, with like social media and all of that, I mean, you see people, you know, doing fake videos, fake like all of this stuff, even with AI. I mean, it's crazy. Like you don't even know what's real anymore.
This is true.
And the only thing we really have like that we have about ourselves is staying true to ourselves.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
That's it. We don't own anything but you know, the power to do that.
Yeah. Literally, I had someone wrote me today on TikTok, and they were talking with me, and they were just thanking me. And he said, one of the quotes he said was, Luke, never forget this person who you have become. It's literally what he said. And I was just like, wow, that's crazy. Like, who have I become? And I had a conversation like 3 days ago with a lady, one of my I guess say friend, client, and she told me a quote, and we were talking about they have family members who are very, very famous, okay? And we were talking about them dealing with the pressure, their family dealing with the pressure, their kids dealing with pressure, all this. And they told me that they tell them, you need to give your nervous system time to adapt to the magnitude of the person of who you are. And when they told me that, I was like, no, you mean the person who they're going to become? And she said, no, like the person who you are. You already are that. And I think people never give their nervous system, they feel nervous. They never sit with it long enough to feel it, to expand into the person who they are. And when you expand to that, you realize you can hold all that. You know, it's not easy to get on someone's podcast. It's not even to start a podcast. Or for you to interview somebody you don't know, but you've expanded, you've allowed your nervous system to expand to this person where you can do it. Doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter if it's a super big celebrity, you can hold that. where a lot of people are so nervous to start that as soon as their nervous system expands a little bit, they run away. And I think that when you do that, you always will be scared of that thing. It's why now that you sat with and I know as soon as you booked your ticket over there to Europe the second time, you had all these feelings and everything, but you allowed that that nervousness to grow and expand. And now you're like, if I'm like, yo, let's go to Frankfurt tomorrow. I got a private flight. You want to come? There's like, yeah, let's go. But if that was maybe 3 years ago, you might not be able to, because there'd be, I don't know if I can, if you can handle it. That's all people are saying. They can't handle it. Their nervous system can't. So they're just too terrified of it. So why people don't post, because they're nervous. Like, I don't know if I can post, if I can share this, because they can't handle just feedback that comes from someone who they don't even know. So when you sit with it, the podcast has done more for you probably even realize, because you can take the criticism, you can take the trying to figure it out, and something's not working, or the audio didn't go through, and you learn to deal with that, and now you can just take anything that comes with you, and more importantly, you can help others to do the same.
Yeah, I mean, that is so true. I mean, like, even with my family, like, not many family members have traveled, by themselves internationally before, and like doing that, like, my cousins, aunts, uncles were all like, how did you do that? Like, how were you on the flight? And like, now that I experienced it, I can help people with that.
Yes.
Because like at one point in my life, like, I was scared of flying. Like,
right.
I've been on flights since I was 2 years old, but however, like, when you're seeing things on the news and you're seeing things online, you start to get scared, but then eventually, you just have to sit with those nerves, sit with those thoughts, and eventually, just think positive. And I'm telling you, you will get through anything.
Really,
and it's so true. Even with like podcasts, for example, like, I literally went back this past weekend and changed all of my titles. I changed all of my like episodes. Like, from like the numbers, like I would do different seasons. Instead, I made it one full season, and it's like just doing things like that. I mean, you just take the punches and then you learn from it. Like, like, oh well, I wish I would have done this sooner.
Yeah.
Well, okay, now I can go back. I could change it, and eventually, everything will continue to build on itself. And you just have to keep growing and keep learning from those lessons in life.
Yeah, exactly. That's why when you were just talking about all the things you were doing, I'm like, man, this dude, like, he gets it. Like, he gets it. Like, I'm scared, but I'll do it. Just let me know what. And every time I'm like, yeah, maybe you should try this or do this. And you're like, dude, I did it. And I'm like, bro, this is someone who actually does it. Most people don't. They just, like, one of my mentors, he's always just like, a belief is a poor excuse for an experience.
Yeah.
People don't want experiences, so they'd rather just believe something. And now, maybe because I'm older, I'm just like, I'm like, is that how do you want to keep believing like that? Like when someone tells me, like, yeah, well, I don't think you should do that because it's dangerous, and that's why I don't go somewhere. I'm like, really? Well, how's that working out for you?
Yeah.
Reframe it as a question and hand it back to them nicely wrapped. Like, how's that working out? Like, it's not like you're not scared to travel. Now you're, just because you don't do it, now you just always have that thing hovering over you. And I think that's how people, they kind of never expand. And I think it just becomes, they just get so comfortable just like this. And I think it's dangerous for people who actually have a dream of wanting to do stuff, is that they never let themselves feel that feeling. Even a lady was on my TikTok as I was on live the other day, and she was talking to me. This is on LukeCharms. I have another TikTok. This is my LukeCharms one I go live on. And she was like, I broke up with someone and I don't know what to do. Like, what do you think I should do? And I'm like, nothing. She said, what do you mean? I was like, I think you should sit with this. She's like, no, but you think I should maybe call him or go? I'm like, I think you should sit with this. And I wouldn't have gave that answer even a week ago, but I'm like, you need your nervous system. You need it to adapt to the magnitude of who you are. You can handle it. You can sit with it. If not, you'll run. If you run now, you'll run every time anything even looks like it. Like everyone has that food that they can't stand.
Yeah.
And even if someone mentions it to them, like, you're like, oh my gosh, no. Everyone has it because it's just like, we've just, no. And it's just the same thing with anything else. If you don't let your nervous system deal with it, maybe that's what I should do. I should look at like creamy corn and just stare at it until I can, like, used to be my favorite food, until I overate when I was like 12 years old,
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's that same thing. And if you never do the thing, then you're literally training your body and your mind to react to it. And it's just like me being in the States. Like, when I'm back here, like, I just train my mind. If there's food out, I'm gonna eat it. That's not how I live. In South America, I don't live like that. It's very different because I don't have all this stuff in my house. But I'll visit my parents, I'll visit my sister, and they just have food everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I go back in this person. But I'm like, that's not who I am. And it's just like, sometimes the environment you need is the difference between who you are.
Wow, that is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So obviously we've talked about a lot of life lessons. I mean, Luke, you've told me so many cool stories. So now going from the life lessons, let's talk about basketball again. What's one thing that's really changed your mind, whether it was a memory, talking to pros, anything?
That we're all human. Like we're all human, and whether you're a pro, whether you're like, at least when it comes to like famous people, like and popular people, when you get in the room with them, you realize we're all human. You know, when I work with a lot of the Cavs, and I played with them a lot in the off seasons, and I'd be around other pros who are making a lot of money, and I see a lot of people in the clubs like Barcelona's football team, their basketball team, like being around them, their soccer team, being around all these people, and then seeing how people react to me. I'm like, yo, we're all human, and we like to be approached as a human. Like to run and ask for a picture, that's not a human feeling. You know, ask me how I'm doing, like that's like, whoa. Like how am I feeling? How am I dealing with the pressure? Or like remember the human in people, like because we're all human. And I think when you forget that, that's where all these problems come in. Like whatever you want to label somebody, they're human at the end of the day. And maybe the way you're treating them makes them act the way that they do. And as I've been around a lot of like very popular people, and I sit around with them and we're just talking, I'm like, wow, why do they just open up to me so much? And I'm like, oh, because they're human to me. I treat them like they're human. I'm like, what are y'all gonna eat today? I don't know. I don't like that. Like, I don't agree with everything you say. I'm like, I don't agree with that. And the people are like, Luke, the dude's like $100 million. I'm like, I don't agree with what he says. Like, what are you want me to say? Like, you got to remember the human in people. And I think when you remember the human, you can understand people. When someone's scared of something like going overseas that we've done, we can't be like, just do it. You know, it's like our parents said. And it's like people become rebels like that, you know? But if you understand the human part of them is scared and they need to just understand, you got to get to the part of like letting them know, like, you know, what are you actually worried about? And because we've done it, we know where to meet them because we at some point were somewhere close to where they're feeling. And that's how you like, oh yeah, like that nervousness, how your hands sweat when you go on turbulence, like all that, like, yeah, that now you've got them and now you can lead them to this change.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's Luke, man, your answers are just absolutely awesome.
Appreciate it, bro.
Seriously. So now to end this podcast, what's one quote that you live by every single day?
Man, that's a tough one, man. I've heard a lot of quotes. I don't know if I live by quotes anymore. I think, by questions. I look at it as a quote when a quote or a cliche, it doesn't require your conscious thought. So I can just say a quote, but after a while it loses its meaning. But a question that I've been pondering lately is, and your audience can listen to this as well, is imagine your life has been a movie up until this point, and an audience has been watching this whole time. At this moment right now, what is the audience yelling and screaming at the movie screen for you to do with your life right now?
Wow. That is absolutely beautiful.
Living by questions, and then you just come up with different questions because it allows you to access a different part. I learned so much about myself because I've never heard these questions before. Like these questions make me dig into myself. I never thought about it. I never even thought about it.
Yeah.
Like I was in like I didn't even know that I didn't even know that because it's never been asked. So it's like, wow, what if I just change up the question? I ask myself, like, where's the gift in today that I'm going to find? You know, when you're in a situation, if you look at your situations that you're in, it's like, where's the gift in this moment? When you can ask that question, you spend your life opening presents because every situation has a gift and every situation is different and every gift is different. So for me, that's probably the thing that I live by most is living by a question. And then when I hear a new question, like, let's go with that one. Or if I learn something new, like after this podcast, I'm going to think like, you know what? Marcelo asked me some great questions. Like, I'm like, maybe what kind of questions should I be asking myself if I was interviewing myself? So that gives me something for tomorrow to think about. I'm like, oh, this and this. And it makes me go deeper in my brain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Luke, I mean, this is absolutely crazy. But, you know, when I first, you know, met you, you know, and like eventually we got to know each other, and I found out that you played like pro ball. Like that was always like a dream of mine growing up. So like hearing that you did that, the only thing I wanted to ask you was questions about that experience, like what it was like. And everything like that, like everything about it. Like that was almost like my dream. But eventually, as me and you got to talk, oh, he's from Cleveland. You know, he went to like, you know, the same places I have.
Yeah.
You know, played high school ball in the same area I have. Like at the end of the day, like we are all human.
Yes.
And like it's like kind of like what you said. You know, when you know I'm sitting down with you know someone that did something that I idolized when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It just puts it into a whole different perspective. And now like we're here. We just did our podcast.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely incredible. Luke, when I first started my podcast, you know, I was, you know, trying to do YouTube. I was trying to do certain things. Obviously I wanted to play ball in college. That just didn't work out. But I always felt like there was something there for me.
Yeah.
For example, I did my own 3-on-3 basketball league, you know.
I remember you telling me that, man. Amazing.
Raised money for charity with 30 of my best friends from high school, and I love all of them. And, you know, eventually 70,000 people tuned in into that this past summer.
Wow.
And, you know, eventually I was just trying to find my way, trying to find certain things to do. But I always felt like sitting down with people doing podcasts always meant, you know, just something to me, because I always love people. I love hearing what people have to say and just hearing different stories and backgrounds. And the fact that I'm able to sit down and say that I sat down with not only a pro basketball player, but a motivational speaker, a YouTuber, a friend, like seriously, that means everything to me. If you would have told me a year ago today that I would be doing this with my podcast, I probably wouldn't have believed it, honestly. So it's crazy what God and what, you know, what happens in life if you just try certain things and if you keep going forward. Like literally, you know, my dad saw a sign, you know, just to go pick up like a little part-time job, and I was like, hey, this is perfect. You know, I can enjoy my summer a little bit. And, you know, it eventually turned into this. And Luke, I'm just so grateful, and I'm so thankful that you took the time out of your busy schedule to come here and do this podcast with me.
100%.
It's absolutely been a blessing, and to hear your stories, it's truly been unreal, and I'm so glad that I can call you a friend.
Hey, man. Always, man. Call me anytime, brother.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, bro.
But that'll do it for the podcast. Thank you all for the love and support.
Appreciate you.
That'll do it, Luke. Thank you again, brother.
100%, man.
And yeah, we'll see you in the next episode.
Yes, sir.
Peace.
Hey, bro. You're a beast, man.
My God.
Hey, you are a beast, man.
My God.